it's time I come clean. As someone whose experience of Yu-Gi-Oh comes solely from the premier Konami state-sponsored Yu-Gi-Oh experience, Yu-Gi-Oh Master Duel, someone who lacks the trauma of long banlist waits, I don't get why everyone hates semi-limits.
Objection!
That doesn't make sense. You can't just throw people in jail like that. That's not how you operate a court of... You know what? Let's start on some common ground. This guy deserves to be semi-limited. And if the TCG players had their way, he'd probably be the only one in there. Only guys in there. Generally, when people hate on my homie the semi-limited list, they bring up the classic line, sometimes, but not all the time. Which is just a fancy schmancy way of saying, yeah, go off king, but you gotta combo off every single game. And when Master Duel's first ban list brought numerous semi-limits to the top decks, I was like, yeah, I get it now. Most of these hits did very little to actually stem the strength of the top decks, and since they were mostly consistency hits, you'd still get comboed to hell by Adamancipators, but hey, at least they'd brick 2% more often. But this is where I make my rebuttal. People generally like the limited list since it acts as the gatekeeper to playability and searchability. Giving Branded one copy of the currently banned Branded Expulsion converts a based lore deck whose lovable protagonist set up eldritch abominations into funny lizard turbo. Or a different kind of abomination. The semi-limited list generally lacks that dynamic, hence why it gets mocked as the sometimes but not all the time list. But time to expose all of you, cause that's how I know none of you play trap decks. How come that sometimes not all the time energy isn't there for the limited list? Am I the only one to ever set 5 and pass, sweating bullets until I see it? The limited list has tons of sacky draw sense auto win nonsense cards. Don't tell me that going neg 4 is okay as long as it's sometimes but not all the time. Now TCG players do have one ace up their sleeve. The card Triple Tactics Thrust technically allows you to search singleton spell cards even out of archetype. But how about limited to 1 monsters like Dino Wrestler Pankratops?
Objection!
Okay, fine, but has the jury considered that if we're going to allow very specific card interactions, then technically having any trap move from limited to semi-limited allows it to be fetched with Trap Trick? Yeah, not so fun playing Lawyer now, is it? But Lawyer roleplay aside, there actually are some conditions where the semi-limited list is a very valid place to place a card. The sometimes not all the time criticism against the 2 list works wonders for combo starters, extenders, and consistency tools like in the original Master Duel ban list, but what about for highly accessible cards in the extra? I know the average Yu-Gi-Oh player has yet to feast their eyes on turn 4 and beyond, but in a grindy deck like Sky Strikers, having a second copy of Sky Striker Ace Kagari is a legitimate way to improve the strategy while keeping the deck's identity in check. And while it's free to dunk on Master Duel's first ban list, the semi-limit 2 DD Dynamite did stop the wave of FTK bots at the time, since they were using 1 copy plus Trap Trick to FTK. Of course, they just find a new FTK, but it did something. Let's circle back for a second to that dreaded consistency. If anything was certified Konami game design philosophy, it would be the usage of consistency to weaken decks. Reinforcement of the Army is the most generic searcher for the historically oppressive warrior typing. Meanwhile, the lames over in the Dinosaur Tribe get to search an even stronger version, able to search up to level 6, non-once per turn, and nobody cares. You're gonna tell me that Big Beast Warrior did not pump thousands of taxpayer dollars into disinformation campaigns to get Fire Formation Tenki voted off the ban list? And perhaps the pinnacle of consistency power scaling, the worst type in all of Yu-Gi-Oh! Is slated to get their own Rhoda when Bonfire releases to help the downtrodden Pyro Tribe. At least they remembered the once per turn. Overall, I think the semi-limited list gets way too much hate for what it's worth. There are very real uses for it, and it's not like Konami has shied away from using consistency hits in the past. But for what it's worth, Konami, it's been like 2 years. Can I have my 3rd fractal back?